Metroid Prime 2 Echoes is seen as one of the more challenging and tedious games of the Metroid franchise. A game featuring entire areas that drain health, a number of punishing and formidable boss battles, and the use of limited beam ammo. The increased challenge is one of the many things that sets Echoes apart from its predecessor, Metroid Prime, the game which rebooted the franchise and was acclaimed by many as a near masterpiece. To some, Echoes is often seen as unwelcoming and too tedious to complete, from the various spikes in difficulty to keeping track of ammo for the light and dark beam. However, as a long-time Metroid player, I personally believe these aspects increase the overall engagement and atmosphere of the game. I'm PrimeHylian, and here's why I and many Metroid fans alike believe Echoes to be a fantastic demonstration of Metroid mechanics, as well as increased challenge for veteran players alike. One of the main aesthetics of Echoes is the overhanging sense of dread it has throughout the game. The game is set between two different dimensions of the same planet, Ether. Light Ether showcases the ruined or abandoned locations of the Luminoth, and Dark Ether showcases a corrupt counterpart to these areas, crawling with a dark species known as the Ing. In either one of these worlds, you will commonly have to use either one of the different beams to defeat different powerful enemies. Foes in Light World are vulnerable to the Dark Beam, and vice versa for the Dark World. Elemental weaknesses have been used before in Metroid, such as in Prime, however there are two key differences here. 1. Your beams are a near necessity for fending off many different enemies, particularly against almost everything in Dark Ether. And 2. You have limited ammo for each of your primary weapons. This is where some of the challenge in Echoes comes into play. It's important to note first off that the use of limited ammo doesn't artificially halt progress. Each beam when depleted can be charged to fire a single shot in order to activate dimensional portals, open doors, or to gather ammo for either beam. It's extremely inefficient for combat, but doesn't trap the player in a situation they can't escape from. It's handled in a way which means it doesn't stop the player's progression entirely. There are also 4 beam ammunition expansions hidden throughout the variety of areas, which reward the player for exploration and make situations more manageable when confronting tougher enemies and environments. A good way the concept of limited ammo is shown to the player is during the first few ventures to the alternate dimension Dark Ether. Throughout the entire game, you heavily rely on the light beam to combat the native creatures, either the Darkling or the Ing. Other weapons do work, but results are a lot harder and more strenuous to achieve. This idea is communicated to the player through 2 separate encounters. Fighting the creature Warrior Ing before and after obtaining the light beam. Beforehand feels strenuous because of the creature's natural resistance to your weaponry, while also being able to remain highly offensive. In contrast to after receiving the light beam, you're put up against half a dozen of these creatures at the same time, which are now more easily dispatched and will often retreat to escape the light beam's firepower. However, in this fight, the ammo is quickly depleted due to the quantity of enemies surrounding the player, so they will at some point have to quickly search for ammunition, even if it's after the fight. This teaches the veteran Metroid player multiple things. 1. While previously having unlimited ammo, beams now have finite ammo. 2. Beams are almost crucial to combating certain enemies and are far more efficient than the rest of their arsenal. And 3, they need to be strategic about the use of ammo when exploring unknown or treacherous areas, where ammo might not be too plentiful. One of the player's most primary and essential defenses is finite, and can only be replenished by depleting the corresponding beam weapon. There are also elements which reward the player's experimentation and resourcefulness, such as energizing the various light crystals for devastating results, and with only the use of 1 or a few shots of beam ammo, which again encourages strategy. Veteran players now have a step up in what they have to manage and consider when exploring both Ether and Dark Ether. If they try and power through without consideration for these elements, then proceeding will become far more difficult and punishing, so strategic use of their arsenal is rather vital. Taking into consideration depleting energy in the world's atmosphere, limited essential weaponry, stronger and more dangerous creatures, and a limited arsenal such as missiles or power bombs. The game does provide you with some areas of sanctuary for health and some pickups, and these feel more valued than they would with unlimited ammo and less treacherous areas to explore. Your ship actually feels like a place of comfort, because you're getting ammo back that you'd usually have to hunt down. This sense of resourcefulness makes Dark Ether's presence seem so much more impactful, treacherous, and tense. Traveling here feels foreboding and dreadful, and like your wits, ability, and equipment are about to be tested. And when you finally return to Ether, there's a sense of relief and satisfaction of what you've ventured through and overcome. Compared to the areas of Metroid Prime, Dark Ether feels like a strong step up in tension, atmosphere, and challenge. This increase in tension and high levels of challenge really encourages the hardcore veterans to attempt the more drastic of challenges. Challenges like particular bosses or entire portions of the game with extremely limited equipment, like 1 energy tank or no dark suit, putting themselves in situations where success requires high levels of skill, concentration, and strategy. These types of players thrive in a game like Echoes, which offers those intense, skill and strategy heavy tactics. It brings out the speedrunners, the only necessary equipment and that's it kind of players. It plays to the hardcore veterans by really testing your use of your limited equipment. This is why Metroid Prime 2 Echoes is a challenge made for a veteran.